It's time for our Eye on Terre Haute segment. We are always glad to be joined by Mayor Duke Bennett. And Mayor Bennett, we have a few things to talk about, not least of which the weather. And that means that's a pretty big toll on the street department, on a lot of the great city workers to make sure that the folks out there can drive and get around the city. So as we get into this, what do people need to know about all the efforts that the street department's putting into making sure the roads are safe?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, we've been fortunate where December wasn't too bad, but now we've kind of had some here as the new year has begun. You know, I think what we really need people to keep in mind is just to slow down. And I think on Sunday, this past Sunday, when we had our first the streets were wet and then they froze and then there was some snow on top of it. And there were a lot of accidents. And then when we had the most recent snow early in the week, we didn't have nearly as many accidents. People kind of get used to it quickly, but that first, you know, when it hits them the first time when it's icy, that's always really bad. And the street department is out as soon as the roads, you know, we get out and do some pre-treatment if we know the storm's coming. But, you know, we only have 30 employees in the street department. I always want to remind people that. We've got 750 miles of streets. And we've got just enough equipment, we can do what we need to do, but a lot of it has to do with the timing. And so people will say, well, the street department, you know, we didn't see them come out until after the storm. We have to come out and respond when we know that we need to, when we have a real problem. When you have a dry snow, it's not nearly as bad, you're just moving it. But when you need salt down, that's the key, and we need to have our crews ready to go. And I think they've done a good job so far of dealing with the first few snows.
Yeah, it's always a task that's tricky because, you know, it's not an exact science. Sometimes, you know, certain areas get more and they get less. And I know you guys are always tuned to News 10, Storm Team 10 to make sure that you're on top of it. But it's one of those things where you depend on the drivers as much as they depend on the street workers to make sure that the drivers are doing what they need to. You had mentioned leaf pickup, and it may seem a little weird to think about that with, you know, the snow on the ground and the cold conditions that we've had. But how has that been going?
We got it done right before the holidays ended. I really applaud the street department too for getting that done, because last couple of years we've been behind. One year the leaves didn't fall, and then last year everything came earlier and the snow came early. And so really we did a good job with that. And I remind people every year when we go through this leaf pickup, make sure you have it out there and ready to go. And if we missed you, you just call 311 and let us know. And we came back through the city and we picked most of them up. We got about 30 or 40 calls, and we took care of all those by the first of the year. And so then the snow came and it's frozen now, but I feel really good about that too. Once again, the street department did a phenomenal job.
That's fantastic. And just a quick reminder for people, when they work with the street department, there are things that they can do, and just city workers in general, there are things that they can do to make city workers' lives a lot easier. We had mentioned trash pickup. What are some things that residents can do just to kind of help things out a little bit, especially this time of the year?
Yeah, when you get this time of the year when things are frozen, you start getting snow. I mean, there's issues with that. And sometimes the trash doesn't get picked up, you know, on the day it's supposed to. When we have a significant snow, it's for the safety of them as well as it's everybody else. I would just, you know, if you have street pickup, make sure your can is away from your car where it can be picked up. You can't have it right next to your car where the truck might slide into your car. You know, make sure that when you're moving the snow, you're not putting it out there where it would keep the truck from picking up the trash or keep the trash can. Sometimes they freeze and, you know, hard to lift. So it's just using some common sense, and it really helps make things go much more smoothly.
Absolutely. Well, talking about this time of year, a lot of things slow down and a lot of things come to a stop, but we want to stay mindful of a couple of the business ventures that are on their way to Terre Haute. We talked about a few of those projects. Are there any updates you can share with us today about how things are going?
Well, things are moving along. You know, as you mentioned, it's that time of the year where things slow down a little bit. There's a lot of interior work going on, but not a whole lot of exterior type of activity. And so people are ramping up, and when spring comes, it'll be here before we know it. You know, when March comes, a lot of things will really kick off again, whether it's some road projects we're going to be working on. I know there's going to be some new construction starting up both in the city and the county. So I'm looking at this as being a pretty productive year. We've had a couple of good years, and I would expect this one to be very similar to that. So things keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And finally, Mayor, while we have you here, I know that you have just recently, within the past few days, made it official that you are going to be seeking re-election.
Yep. You know, I put a lot of thought into it. I wanted to make sure that it was, you know, the right thing for me personally, but what's right for the community too. I really like the way the community and the direction things are going, and so many people are helping to make things happen. It's exciting for me, and so I want to do it again. And so I signed up this week, and looking forward to the election cycle.
All right, all right. Well, of course, News 10 has you covered with all of your election watch results and things like that as we move forward into the election season. But thank you for giving us the scoop first, Mayor.
No problem, Ron.
All right. If you want to check out more On Terre Haute segments, you can go to our website. That's WTHI-TV.com. Stay with us. News 10 will be right back.